I want to talk about coaching and leadership, because those two words for me are kind of key, coaching and leadership. And how do they go together? And then the thinking that went from that and actually leads into the Coaching Leader Programme. Just a brief overview to give you some insight into the current work that I'm working on and that we're working on in the partnership. I'm an executive coach and a supervisor, and I work a lot with coaching development. So I work with groups, in organisations, and also on open programmes. But I've been a coach for about 15 years, and part of that journey came from where I started, which was in the oil industry. Way back in the early 80s, I kind of worked for one of the big American oil companies, and that set me on the path of development, and still feeds into coaching for me today, because development was the key, how we develop our people and give them the best skills and abilities that are possible. Because actually coaching is kind of the follow-up to any learning that we do. You know, it's that support, it's the follow-up, it's the lead-on from any type of development. When I've coached chief executives, I've discovered that actually quite often they feel very isolated and on their own. And they need support and help, and they also need stretch. And it's a different stretch from working with your team or being with the people around you. It's a kind of stretch that says, actually, I need to feel safe, I need confidentiality, where I can really talk about the issues and key problems that I have as a leader. So for me, part of this piece around being a coach and being a leader was actually, how do we start to bring them together? So what does it really mean, I started to think, what does coaching and a coaching leader really mean? I was thinking of a very senior manager in a bank who was a key leader, and I actually coached him for 2 years, and he had been promoted into a very senior job, and you know, isn't it interesting, he so wanted that job, he so wanted to be in that place. You know, for many years that is where he had wanted to go, that was his goal. And then when he got there, of course, lo and behold, it was much tougher than he'd imagined. And one of the areas that he found most tough was actually being in the board meetings, being with those members of the board who almost had their own culture, and he had to somehow get in and be part of it. And so a lot of the work we did was actually working with that person and their process about, how do I belong here? How can I become more confident? How can I actually stand up at that board meeting and say what I really think and not get coerced into other areas? And so we worked with that struggle over quite a long period of time, because not only was he trying to be in that place with the board, he was also trying to be with his team and bring them forward in a way that was more suitable for the business now. And you know, financial services, lots of change has gone on, huge change, and it was trying to grapple with all of those dilemmas and that change. So we coached, I coached him for a couple of years, and throughout that process he grew, he changed. He started to know the language that he needed to use, and most of that came from himself. And only sometimes did I need to prompt, but it was the questions and actually really listening to what his needs were that always struck me about coaching. And I wanted to create a program that would help people to understand more about this core and this heart of being a leader as a coach. So the program, just to kind of briefly give you an overview of it, is called the Coaching Leader Programme, and it's a 7-day programme which has been split into 3 modules and then a final assessment day, which is day 7. And those 3 modules have each got a theme, and it's almost like taking people on a journey, taking a leader on a journey of understanding much more about themselves and their impact within their business. The first module is kind of got a name of engage, because for me, if I go back to thinking about what coaching is, the relationship, it is about engaging with people. It's about the beginning. How do we start with somebody and build rapport? And how do I actually do that with my team when day by day I might be giving them lots of tasks to do, but actually suddenly we're entering a different type of relationship and can be a much more personal relationship than perhaps had before. So that first module is all about raising awareness of myself as the coach, and also really helping my clients to raise their own awareness. The second module is called Explore, because so much of coaching is exploration, isn't it? It's about being curious about people, genuinely curious, not nosy. As someone recently said to me, I was running an international program in Switzerland, and when I used the word curious, they said, that means nosy in our language. And I thought that was a wonderful difference in language. But exploring for me is about exploring people's resourcefulness, how much resourcefulness we all have within us that we can use and actually needs pulling out sometimes. And the third module is conclude, because there does need to be a conclusion. There needs to be actions to the coaching. There needs to be outcomes. I'm absolutely clear about that with coaching. But there also needs to be the journey on the way of how you get to those outcomes. So, kind of moving towards the end of this, I was thinking about, okay, so how does it help? How can it help in the business? Now, I was with a group recently in financial services, and I asked them this question. So you've done all this wonderful coaching, you've learnt loads of skills, you've been telling me what it's meant for you. But what's it actually going to do for your business as you go back in and sit with your people, or stand with your people? And it was really interesting because the unanimous pointers that came up were that what we've realised, they said to me, was that in our organisation there is so much untapped potential that we really are not getting in touch with. And by being in this process, you know, they realised that actually there was a lot more they could be doing with their people. And that those people that they had known for quite a long time, in many cases, worked together for many years, they were discovering things about each other that they never knew. And they were discovering things about their teams, the skills that they had that they never knew, they never realised. They were understanding more about people's motivational state. You know, what really motivates people. I remember someone recently talking about putting someone on incentive schemes, and the person turned around and categorically said, that is not what motivates me. I'm not interested. Isn't it interesting? You think, make an assumption, give them more money. Not always the case. I think it helps the business in helping to build a coaching culture, and that's always an interesting one, I think, because what does that really mean? I think if you take organisations, the organisations that you're involved in, and you think about the structure of that organisation and everything that goes with that, and then you think about the dynamic of the organisation, the people in it, the skills they've got or haven't got, and you bring those two together, it kind of gives you the characteristics, and that's what I think culture is. It's the characteristic of an organisation, and coaching can help to change those characteristics if they are no longer suitable for where we are now. And I think the last bit for me was around, I really believe it helps people take more responsibility. And I think now, in this, leading from the front in a recession, we need people to take more responsibility for themselves. And I think of that word as response and ability. Two words to enable others to have a response rather than be told, and then to really help them work with their own abilities in that process. I think the message I want to get across is that coaching leadership, the coaching leader for me, is the way ahead. It's not a 5-minute wonder, it's here very much to stay. The coaching business, the coaching world, coaching in business is growing hugely.